So welcome everybody. You are at Farming Today, and we have two incredible speakers. We've had a morning packed with speakers, and we've got more to come. So thank you for being here. And I just want to say thank you to our sponsors and hear from them real quick. Ag Direct, Farm Right Equipment of St. Cloud, Betty Burning Consulting, First District Association, and Steffes Group. And if you haven't yet, please in the chat, let me know which breakout session you are here for. We have two speakers. Susan Von Bank is here to talk with us about farm safety programs from the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And then we also have Dave Trout and Jim Grenke from Trout Companies to talk about improving dairy cattle drinking water and what to know about irrigation and well systems. So drop that in the chat so that I can make sure I put you in the correct breakout room and we can go from there. But first, let's hear real briefly, if I can get this queued up. I thought it was. Give me 1 second. And we will hear very briefly from our sponsors here.
Located in Litchfield, Minnesota, First District Association has been a grassroots, member-owned dairy cooperative since 1921. This year, First District Association is celebrating 100 years of serving dairy farmers. Producing a high-quality, finished product does not start at the processing plant. It starts back at the farm. First District Association, along with their 720 member-owned farms, are committed to producing a superior product day in and day out for their customers, consumers, and families. First District Association. Find out more at firstdistrict.com or give them a call at 320-693-3236.
Please welcome Susan Von Bank, Special Projects Coordinator with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, to talk with us about farm safety programs from the Minnesota Department of Ag. Susan?
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for having me here. It'll pull up my PowerPoint and let me know if you're seeing that and if you can hear me okay, please.
We can hear you all right.
Okay. Oh, hold on. Just a second. Are you seeing it now?
Yep, that is the presentation.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. And you're getting a whole range of different types of talks and topics. But this is a little bit of a going off of what Jim just talked about with the harness safety. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about the farm safety programs that we offer at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. And hopefully at the end, we'll leave time for questions and maybe a little bit of discussion, because I'd actually like a little feedback from folks. So otherwise, if you want to put your questions in the chat, and then we'll probably try to do those at the end, unless Nathan, please stop me if there's something that we need to, okay? Thank you. All right. So my name's Sue Von Bank. I'm a special projects coordinator in the Agricultural Marketing and Development Division, which doesn't mean much to most people, but our division is primarily we do a lot of grants, we do a lot of assistance with farmers, and we are not one of the regulatory divisions. So I will mention some of the regulatory division things, but I don't know much about them. So I can always try to find your answers to your questions if we have them. So at the Department of Agriculture, there are some areas that we have safety programs. There's the pesticide and fertilizer division, and they're regulating the fertilizers. So it's the use, the storage, licensing for both fertilizers and pesticides. And so if you have to get a license to apply, moving any of those things, and those are in a different division. But again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat and I will go back and get that information for you. The farm and rural health, in the past few years, we've added quite a bit of programming for farm and rural stress. This is something that is cross-divisional, and we have, so I'll talk a little bit more about that because I know more about that. And then finally talking about kind of the equipment and general farm safety initiatives that we have at the department. So the first thing I just want to touch on is the coping with farm and rural stress. We have a website, minnesotafarmstress.com, and on that, because we're recognizing that it's one health, it's kind of the whole picture with health and safety. You can't separate one from the other. When people are stressed, they start, and like both Jim and the Congressman mentioned about the financial implications on farms, those things affect how people are acting on the farm, and they affect their safety on the farm. When you're stressed, when you're tired. So this is one component of kind of our farm safety and health programs at the department. There is the helpline, which is 833-600-2670. And when you go to if you call that, it has these 3 sections. So the first one is basically a crisis number. It's 24/7, answered 24/7. So if anyone has questions, they need help, they're in an emergency, they can click through to that. The second part is the daily living, which is the 211. If people are having trouble with finances, senior care, child care, their utilities, all of those things can go there. And then the business, financial, and legal help is the one that actually goes directly to staff at the MDA. Primarily, it's people from our Rural Finance Authority, and then some from Ag Marketing and Development that are answering that question and helping to guide people where they want to, where they need to go on that. So some of the farm safety initiatives that we've have at the MDA. One is it's a farm safety working group. It's an advisory group. It is it's a collaboration between over 30 members, and we are meeting quarterly. And I've just put some of the key partners on here, although it includes commodity groups, utilities, it includes, so it's a whole bunch of groups, and anyone that wishes to join can. And during those meetings, we give updates, we share program ideas, we get input for things that we might propose to the legislature for funding. And so that is kind of our advisory group. There had been about 30 years ago, a farm safety advisory group that was legislated that disbanded, and then about 5 years ago, there was a lot of people that were talking about that we needed to get a group to kind of talk about these things, start to collaborate more. And so that is one of the things that we have going on. So in 2016, we received funding from the legislature to run a ROPS rebate program. This is actually a national program, but each state has kind of their own take on it. And in Minnesota, it was for Minnesota farmers and schools that are retrofitting tractors that were built before 1987, and they needed to meet or exceed this standard. And the National ROPS Rebate Program, which is based in New York, is they actually kind of consult with the farmers to help them find that, to make sure that they're finding the ROPS that meets that. And it's the grant amount is at least 70% of the cost of purchasing, shipping, and installing the rollover protection kit, which is the roll bar and the safety belt. So, and it limits the applicant's cost per tractor to no more than $500. We have retrofitted about 300, almost 400, 398 tractors in Minnesota. We do have a wait list now of about 75 people or farmers that are on the list, but we don't have any funding available. We can accept donations into that account. The legislature had given us $400,000. We had received $47,500 from donations into that account, and we have spent all of that money. We are always hopeful that at some point we may get more funding for that, and so that's why we continue to run the wait list. Oh, I went too far. So yeah, here is the completed retrofits, the most common tractor models, and down at the bottom of the slide you can see the ROPS are for you, ROPS are the number 4 letter U.org. That is where you can get information about that program. We are the host for the program in Minnesota, but they actually do all of the paperwork and we just process the reimbursement rebates. In 2019, we had a really tough year with a lot of grain storage, confined space confined space accidents. And so last year, the legislature created a grain storage facility safety grant program to purchase eligible grain storage safety equipment. And it's 75% of the cost, or $400 per bin or silo. And the maximum reimbursement per farm is $2,400. Some of the eligible equipment for this program: fall protection systems, with engineering controls that prevent contact with moving parts like augers, dust collection systems to minimize explosion hazards, personal protective equipment to grain silo air quality monitoring equipment, and other grain storage facility safety equipment with prior authorization from the MDA. All of this information can be found on our website, which if you can either go to the Department of Ag's website and just search for grain storage, or it's at the bottom, it's is listed the URL. So far, we were given $50,000 for this program. We've completed 62 applications for safety equipment, which is basically the $50,000. And this program will run through the end of June. It's for this fiscal year. We can receive donations into the account, and we are hopeful that private organizations are going to give us some donations to help with the remaining people that have applied, and so that more farmers can apply. But the most common installation has been fall protective structures like stairs, cages, and handrails. I'm hearing from a lot of farmers, they're getting older, they don't want to crawl up the narrow ladder, and so they're installing on their older bins stairways like in this photo. And that's about it. So I will take any questions. And also maybe hopefully if you give you a chance to have a 5-minute break, since your morning has been full on up until this point. So if you want to unmute. The other thing I did want to ask was, we are hopeful that in the future we'll be able to offer a program like this. This is a pilot program, so it's just for the 1 year, but ideas of other types of equipment. The legislature had actually kind of given us that list of specific equipment, and we're finding that we're trying to figure out what kinds of equipment would farmers want and need, and right now, what if it can fit into that, what's in the statute. But so if you want to unmute or put it in the chat, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm not seeing a whole lot in chat at the moment, but you know, I've just got a couple of questions myself here. The first one is, how does those types of programs typically work? You know, who is the first contact on that?
Right. So the ROPS program, the first contact is actually the National ROPS Rebate Program, because they have all the information on what meets the standards, and they have the application on their website. For the Grain Storage Facility Safety Cost Share Program, I would be that. And yes, I see the question in the chat about the cost share. You have to spend the money first, and it's a reimbursement. So that's why you want to, if you have questions about if something's going to be covered, you can contact me. I guess my information was on that last slide, but I closed that. Or it's on our website, and you can contact me that way. If you know that whatever you've purchased is eligible, you can go online and fill out the application. It's a very brief application. It takes about 5 minutes. We basically need to see what you purchased, that you paid for it, and we gather a little bit of contact information in order to actually process a check to you.
So I guess since you answered Dan Martin's question here, I guess got another question here for you. Does it matter what kinds of equipment, you know, the brand names or things along those lines? Are there certain types of equipment that you won't cover, or is it just as long as it falls under those categories?
So we aren't, there's not a certain brand of equipment, but there are types of equipment that are eligible. And then there are some things that are ineligible, which we have listed on the website. Primarily, we've seen people, like I said, purchasing the handrails and things, but also the harnesses, the lockout, tagout structures, auger covers, things like just personal protective equipment that's used around the grain bin or silo. We recently got a dust collection request that they put in a dust collector. That hasn't been something that's been really common. So it's really ranged kind of depending on what the farmer needed, but we're also discovering people are asking for things that, I know another common one was grain bin level indicators, which initially we didn't include because they're not safety equipment per se, but the argument, and it's a good argument, is that it prevents entry into the bin because people don't have to go climb the stairs. And so if it's something that's not listed on the website, then please contact me, and we can run it up through our advisors and see if we can make that work.
Something that I've noticed, and I've had a few phone calls on, and so I guess I'll have to redirect them, is on some of those sensors measuring CO2, some of the hydrogen sulfide, and some of those other things going into like corn, especially in terms of corn silage bunkers, things like that. You know, there was that horrible accident up in Todd County last year where they entered. Are those types of sensors that typically are worn on the belt or something along are those actually also, would that be another case of something that would be covered?
That sounds like something that we would cover. I guess often if it's something that I've learned a lot about grain bins. I did grow up in the country on a kind of a hobby farm, and I'm learning a lot about grain bins and silos. So yeah, Nathan, I think that probably would qualify. But again, if it's not listed, then I would just have them contact me.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions in chat. If you guys want to mute yourself here, we do have a few minutes left. Otherwise, I guess I'll go ahead and stop recording here shortly and let you guys go back to the main room.
Sure, and I can stay here for a couple minutes in case anybody does have like a specific question. And thank you, Nathan, and say hi to Katie.
Well, yeah, thank you for presenting here today, and thanks for taking everyone's questions and being willing to take the time and talk to us about these programs. It's definitely been enlightening as to what the opportunities are. So.